Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona, and this is the TimeformUS Road to the Kentucky Derby series where we handicap the Kentucky Derby prep races. This week there are 3 preps taking place across the country. In this video we're going to focus on the Robert B. Lewis Stakes at Santa Anita, going 1 mile and a 16th on Saturday. It's the 6th race on their card. And let's begin by taking a look at the entire field for this race. No surprise to see that the Bob Baffert trained 1,000 Words is listed as the 4-5 favorite on the morning line. This horse is undefeated and is considered to be one of Bob Baffert's top Triple Crown hopes, so he is the main attraction in this race, but there are some others to consider. The co-second choices on the line are the number 3 Tis a Magician and the number 5 High Velocity. Before we get into all of these contender past performances though, let's take a look at the TimeformUS pace projector for this race, and you'll see that the 2 Bob Baffert horses are shown to be up front. Those are the number 2,000 Words and the number 5 High Velocity. Now, I don't think these two are going to hook up on the early lead because they're coming from the same stable, so we're likely to see a similar scenario to what played out in the Los Alamitos Futurity last time when these two faced off. There are some other pace pressers in the race like Tis a Magician, the number 3, or maybe even the number 1 Encoder who breaks from the rail. He could be more forwardly ridden, but I don't think this is the kind of race we're going to see any kind of fast pace that benefits a deep closer. The likely favorite, who I mentioned at the top, is the number 2,000 Words. As I said, he's undefeated, raced just 2 times, and it's not like he's won by large margins either time, but he's earned some pretty respectable TimeformUS speed figures in both of those races. Let's take a look at his last effort in the Los Alamitos Futurity, where he gamely won over Anno Dor, who was coming off a 2nd place finish in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Now you see, obviously this race is run over a sealed track. It was rated good. The Los Alamitos surface had taken plenty of rain, so it's a feather in 1,000 Words cap that he handled it that day. I think he's more likely to encounter a dry surface on Saturday at Santa Anita, but he handled that in his debut as well. 1,000 Words throughout the stretch drive of this race. Looks like he's going to get passed at multiple points by Anno Dor, but he battles back pretty gamely. He's obviously a horse that has some grit and fight to him, so you like to see that with these young 3-year-olds who don't have a lot of experience under their belts. As a son of Pioneer of the Nile, he's not supposed to have any trouble with added ground, and he's not getting added ground here. He's running at the exact same distance that he won over last time in that Los Alamitos Futurity. Those pair of 113 TimeformUS speed figures that he earned in his first 2 starts just make him really tough to beat in this spot. I don't have a major problem with him. I think he's the most likely winner of this race. I just wouldn't want to accept too short of a price on any horse in a race where many have a chance to improve, because they're all pretty lightly raced and many of them do have upside. I do prefer 1,000 Words though to his stablemate High Velocity. You saw High Velocity also participating in that Los Alamitos Futurity last time. He was fading at the end of that race in his 2-turn debut. He just strikes me as a horse that doesn't really want to go this far. He did run an improved TimeformUS speed figure last time, but I think that was just due to the fact that he was stepping up to face tougher competition. He also didn't have a chance to run a faster speed figure in his prior race when he won the Bob Hope, because the early pace of that race was so slow. You see those blue color-coded TimeformUS pace figures, you're just never going to see a high TimeformUS final speed figure when a pace of a race is that slow, especially in a dirt sprint. I just don't think High Velocity is going to continue getting better with added distance, or the 2 turns is really going to be his gig later on in his career. So I want to look at some other alternatives. My top pick in this race is going to be the number 3 Tis a Magician. I think he is the most interesting alternative to the favorite 1,000 Words. I know that he's making his 7th career start and he's had a lot more chances than others in this race, and he only just broke his maiden last time out for Richard Mandela, so it took him a while to get out of the maiden ranks, and maybe some people are going to view that as a negative, but he just seems to me like a horse that is really turning the corner right now. Let's take a look at his last out victory when he broke his maiden on New Year's Day at Santa Anita. I just really like this performance. I'm not sure what he was beating, because the others in the race have not run back since, but I liked the way that he did it and how he ran within the context of this race, because he was battling with some other horses early. Victor Espinoza was pretty aggressive to make him go after the leaders around the far turn. He puts those horses away, and the other horses that were contesting the pace in this race just finished nowhere. The runner-up closest from last place, the 3rd place finisher closed from 6th early, so this race was really dominated by closers behind Tis a Magician, and he won in pretty authoritative fashion. He earned a 108 TimeformUS speed figure for that performance, and he had earned some triple-digit TimeformUS speed figures prior to that, so he's always been knocking on the door, showing that he was good enough to break out of the maiden ranks. I really like his workout too back since then, when he had that 4-furlong drill on January 14th. Just did it really easily, like a horse that is in really good form since that maiden victory. Richard Mandela is not the type to rush these types of runners along. He doesn't start horses in graded stakes off maiden victories that often. often, but when he does do it, he does it with pretty good horses. You remember he made this move with Paradise Woods when she won the Santa Anita Oaks, as well as with Omaha Beach when he won the Rebel. So these horses that he runs in these graded stakes off maiden wins tend to do pretty well, and I think Tis a Magician, if he continues to step forward, will be the biggest threat to 1,000 Words, and I'll take a shot with him at what should be a better price. The only other horse that I would sort of consider in this race, more for an exotics position, is the number 4 Royal Act. He's listed at 15-1 on the morning line. He's only raced on turf thus far, hasn't earned speed figures that really put him in the mix, but I'm struck by his pedigree because he's by Triple Crown winner American Pharaoh, who's a versatile sire, gets both dirt and turf runners, but his dam, she was more of a dirt sprinter, and this horse's only half sibling is a horse named Forge, who really excelled going sprint distances on the dirt. I think his top buyer speed figure was a 105 on the dirt, so that horse had real dirt ability, so we'll see if Royal Act can transition his form from the turf to the dirt, but he'd really have to be a better dirt horse than what we've seen on the turf so far to win this race. I think he's just one that could get a piece of this, maybe finishing third in the trifecta, but I'm going to stick with Tis a Magician. My picks in this race would be 3, 2, 4, 5, picking Tis a Magician over the number 2,000 Words. I would mostly bet the 3 to win, play a little bit of trifectas, maybe trying to get 1,000 Words underneath him. So that's my look at the Robert B. Lewis this week. Not a ton of value, but I think if we can get this horse home to beat the favorite, we'll be able to get a little bit of a payoff in this Robert B. Lewis.